Hello, all you beautiful listeners. This is Leola Angel here, the writer of Vault Veritas. Before diving into today's episode, I wanted to give you a brief content warning. This episode touches on some heavy topics, including severe self-injury, body dysmorphia, eating disorders, and bullying. If you'd prefer to avoid these topics, feel free to skip this episode. We'll be back next week with a new one, and you won't be missing anything plot critical. It's important to note that although this is a fictional podcast, we do not take these themes lightly. They're not entertaining, but they are worth discussing and destigmatizing. These are serious issues, often born of societal pressures, and can heavily impact lives. If you or someone you care about is grappling with these challenges, please consider seeking support from a qualified professional. We have put some related resources in the description of this episode. You are not alone, and you deserve support.
Vault Veritas SCP Files. Episode 5 Typo. Incident 1207-4. Fourth known incident involving SCP-1207, colloquially known as Not a Mirror. Incident occurred during planned testing. Potential risks and losses considered acceptable. Object class, safe. Risk assessment level, low. Reported by D4172, also known as Summer Jackson. Report made February 1st, 2021. I'm not sure about writing a report. I'll try to make it look neat. Can you read this? I hope so. I have terrible handwriting. Oh, that's too negative, isn't it? I'm sorry. I'm trying to get better about that. I've been told that all my life, you know. You're so negative, Summer. You need to smile more. Look on the bright side. Life's not all that bad. What's there to be unhappy about? Everyone gets so mad at me for thinking that way. And I know there are people out there who are less fortunate than me. Or there were. I suppose I don't know if that's true now, but to be honest, it probably still is. It's just... sometimes I wish I could be sad without anybody trying to change that. Sometimes things hurt. And sometimes I just feel so heavy that to simply smile more takes more energy than I have in a day. I never mean to be a downer. I really do try. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm rambling. I meant to be telling you what happened, and instead I'm just talking about myself. I'm really sorry. Whoever you are, you can't just leave like everyone else does, can you? You probably have to read this, just like I have to write it. I'm sorry you're trapped here reading my rambling report. I'll try to make it better. Am I supposed to tell you how I ended up a D class? I'll try, but I don't really remember it too well. My teens are a blur of alcohol and bad choices. And when I was kicked out of home at 18, it didn't get any better. I had no real qualifications, and nobody was about to take pity on a homeless foreigner. when I saw the Foundation recruiting civilians, offering a place to sleep and free meals, I thought working must be better than going to a shelter. Those shelters can be so rough. I've been here a few months now, bouncing around between assignments. The one I was stationed at the longest had some kind of a mimetic effect, meaning I underwent psychological testing weekly. That's how they found out about the body dysmorphia. I'm sorry if that's awful to read. It's awful to have. When I was little, I don't think I ever felt joy when I wasn't eating. My parents would scream all the time, at each other and at me. I couldn't have anything that actually distracted me. My toys would become weapons, thrown across the room in the heat of my parents' battles. And any electronics would last mere days before someone smashed them in an attempt to show their strength and their anger. So I ate. I would sit with whatever I could find in the cupboards and the fridge, and I would lose myself in it, eyes closed, trying to overwhelm my sense of hearing with my sense of taste. When I was 9 years old, the bullying started. I was hugely overweight, and the kids were merciless. I endured their torment for a year before I finally broke down and told my mother. I had hoped she would march in to talk to the school, demanding the bullies stop. Instead, she agreed with them, said I was overweight. I remember her pulling me in front of that huge mirror in the living room, the one with that impact mark in the top left, and the thin spiderweb breaks running through it in every direction. She undressed me there, and spent the better part of an hour measuring me, marking off parts of my body with a cheerfully bright pink highlighter, anywhere there was too much fat, or had acne, or she simply didn't like. Anytime I fussed or moved, she would scream, yelling at me to keep my eyes fixed forward on that awful broken mirror, and take in everything that I wanted to change. I've avoided mirrors ever since, and I've avoided food. Cosmetics drew me like a moth to a light, and I spent hours in my teens, drowning myself in layer after layer of makeup, hoping that it would fix all the imperfections that I saw. But it never truly worked. That all came up during my psych evals, and it wasn't long before they sought me out for 1207. They said that I was perfect for the tests they wanted to run. When they told me it was a mirror, well, naturally I tried to refuse. But you can't, really. As I wasn't a prisoner, I suppose I could have just left. But where can I go? I have nothing. I have no one. I tried to ask what the test would be. I tried to be prepared. But nobody wanted to tell me anything. The researchers laid out what I needed to do, and it seemed strangely simple. I was to go into the testing chamber with the mirror and look into it. That's all. I asked how long I had to look at it for, and they simply said, "Until you're done." I remember thinking, what an odd test. But it was just a mirror. No creatures, no haunted houses. How bad could it be? I knew something was wrong the moment I entered the chamber. The walls were solid concrete, nobody watching us except through a camera in the upper right corner of the room. The camera was angled so it could see me, but not the SCP. Whatever it was, They didn't want to look at it. I was really confused. SCP-1207 was adorable. It's a full-body mirror, about 1 meter tall. It has a white wooden frame, which is dotted with pink and red hearts. The glass is shiny, well-polished, and almost inviting. I looked into it, and of course, as was the norm, I hated what I saw. I could almost hear my mother's voice as I looked. "Your hair is too short. Nobody will want you. You look like a man. Ugh, when was the last time you washed your face? You're eating too much again. I can see the fat on your jowls." It wasn't all my mother's words, though. My own mind joined in seamlessly. I looked, and I hated. I hated how round my face was. I hated the several thick hairs I could see growing on my chin. I hated the acne scars on my chest. It wasn't enough to satisfy the mirror. It knew. It could sense there was more to hate. I could feel a pull from it. And almost as if I were a puppet on a string, my hands started to move. I could not control them. It was in my mind, and it needed more to hate. Moving as though I were in a trance, I pulled off my jumpsuit and stood bare in front of the mirror. I could feel its satisfaction. There was a lot to hate now. But 1207 focused my attention on the curve of my stomach most of all. And as I stood there, and the mirror and I hated together, I realized I was speaking the words out loud, too. Streaming from my mouth was just a river of criticism. Words I did not mean to leave my lips, that had always existed only in my mind. I could feel the mirror intensifying every little thing. It wanted me to hate it all, because I realized suddenly it wanted me to be better. It wanted me to be cool. "I'm not cool yet," the mirror said through my mouth. And in that moment, I knew how to achieve it. What the mirror wanted me to do. It whispered into my mind every secret I'd been desperately searching for years. I looked around for cosmetics, but there were none in the room. It was just me and the mirror. It was okay. There were other ways to fix all the imperfections. The fat had always stood out to me the most. In a motion practiced over years upon years, I shoved my fingers into my mouth and down my throat. I turned my body away from the mirror, not wanting to hit it with the sudden eruption of dark yellow vomit. It had never worked the way I wanted once before, never actually changed anything. And yet here, this mirror, this heart-dotted mirror, in my reflection, I could see the fat melting away, see it disappearing before my eyes. For the first time in my life, my brain finally told me that my body didn't look bloated and full. But there was so much more to fix. The mirror wasn't even close to finished, and I could feel that draw again as it assessed me, the way I had always assessed myself. It focused on my hair, too short, too boyish. I had made this choice for myself. It was cheaper this way, easier to maintain. But from the moment I first felt the scissor blade touch my hair, I had hated the way it looked. With the mirror guiding my fingers in its gentle but irresistible puppeteering pull, I grabbed the roots with my fingernails and pulled. Large bloody clumps began to fall to the floor, the sharp ripping pain in my scalp, nothing compared to the sheer, overwhelming desperation to become cool. Even though I could feel my scalp bleeding and see the hair ripped fully out, the mirror whispered that it was fake, just my mind playing tricks. For, in my reflection, each yank instead pulled it longer, and it extended into beautiful flowing locks, perfectly kempt and a lovely glistening black. It didn't let me stop until every inch of my hair had been pulled out to the perfect length, and the blood had started to ooze down my face and neck. The mirror still wasn't satisfied. Those beastly dark hairs on my chin had haunted me for years, and I could feel the mirror assess them now. I kept plucking them meticulously with my tweezers, and the awful things just kept growing back. But then and there, 1207 whispered the truth to me, told me just how to fix it. I didn't want to. They suddenly seemed like not a big deal at all. For the first time, I realized I didn't actually care about them, and that I wanted to run. But instead, the mirror pushed, and I raised my fingertips to my face and started to dig. It hurt. It hurt so much to cut through my skin with my fingernails and lift, peeling it away from my face. But the mirror kept whispering that it would hurt so much more to stay as I was, stay ugly and awful when it knew the secret to beauty. I was so close to being beautiful, to being cool. I ripped and tore, discarding the strips of flesh with their mocking dark hairs onto the floor alongside my bloody locks. And when I looked in the mirror, I could clearly see how beautifully smooth my chin was now. Unblemished, no scars, no hairs. I knew. Deep down, I knew what I'd done. That what I saw couldn't possibly be true. I could feel the tears welling in my eyes. But the mirror would not let me go. What had once been subtle suggestions had solidified into an iron grasp upon my willpower. The rest of my skin still wasn't perfect. I had no makeup, but the scarlet blood that now covered my face was suddenly the true answer, the perfect concealer. I ran my fingers along the blood that still dripped down from my scalp, massaging it into my face. My chest was already soaked in red, dripping from what remained of my face, and I massaged that in too, marveling at how, in the mirror, every acne scar vanished, and all that remained was beautiful porcelain skin. It wanted me to continue. I could feel the mirror's hunger, and I knew there was no satiating it now. There was still hair along my legs, patchy stubble that was just starting to grow back from the last time I had shaved. But as I reached down and began to scratch my gore-crusted nails along them, the dizziness set in. The room was spinning, and it became harder and harder to keep standing. The blood kept dripping, and the mirror's grip became even stronger, desperate. It scratched my fingers along my legs faster, shredding the skin in a flurry of scratches. It was so afraid that I would faint from the bleeding before I could be truly perfect. I remember I was crying heavily now, and the salty tears stung my chin so badly as they rolled off my face that I vomited again, completely on reflex. I don't remember actually fainting, nor the several weeks of fading in and out in the medbay. All I know is that they couldn't undo the mirror's work. It's strange. Whenever I pass by a mirror now, the perfection that I see has remained. It's a lie, I know that. When I raise my fingers to my face, I can feel the truth in the rough patches of healing grafted skin. I'm working on myself, trying to be more positive, to let go of the past. It's a lot to let go of. I don't blame myself. It was never truly my fault. I know that now. Just a series of awful thoughts placed in my mind by other people and by 1207. So many people take one look at my scarred face and shun me. I can't see it for myself, but I do know what they're seeing. It's what I saw for myself all of those years. Isn't that ironic? If I could go back, tell myself that I really was beautiful before, that I didn't need to. But there's no doing that, is there? There's only moving forwards, cherishing what I have left. It won't be an easy path, but if I've lived through all of this so far, I'm resilient. I'm going to be all right. There is a photograph attached of D4172 after the incident. Well, at least she's working on herself. Hopefully she can find the peace she deserves. There's something odd, though. I looked up SCP-1207 before this report, and it is definitely not a mirror. Certainly not one with a white frame and pink and red hearts. 1207 is actually a small metal sign, about 50 by 60 centimeters, painted entirely white. It has no reflective surfaces whatsoever. Painted on the front are embossed letters, all capitals, reading, "This is a mirror, you are a typo." The word mirror is misspelled as M-I-R-O-R. Summer is only one victim in a series of D-class testing done on 1207. The tests before hers had established what the SCP is capable of on healthy minds. It was determined that 1207 can create body dysmorphia in anyone who looks into it, and they will attempt to rectify any seen imperfections with whatever is present. If cosmetics are present, that is what will be used. If nothing is present, then people have resorted to self-inflicted mutilation. Summer's test was intended to study what occurs when the tester already has body dysmorphia, and, well, the results. It just doesn't seem worth it. All these tests. What exactly does this accomplish? What I've read about 1207 suggests that it is stored in a standard locker wrapped in an opaque cloth. That's it. The entirety of its anomalous properties can be contained by a sheet. So why all this extra torture? I suppose Summer... She's working on her self-image. But at what cost? I can't get over the line at the very beginning, added by the research personnel. Potential risks and losses considered acceptable. Ugh. I wish I could just ask Niall about it, but he's sporadic in his visits. He said something about helping Merriweather with a new project. So, I suppose it's just me doing the follow-up here. If you're listening to this, Dr. Miranda, I don't mean to question the work, just... Are we doing our jobs right? This test really doesn't seem ethical, or even necessary at all. I have some questions. I'll compile them and come talk to you soon. I hope that's okay.
Vault Veritas SCP Files is a podcast inspired by the SCP Foundation. Typo is based on SCP-1207 by Toon Toad Dead Channel from the SCP Wiki, located at scpwiki.com/SCP-1207. It is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 3.0 unported license. This episode was performed by Justin Gellner, and it was written and edited by Leola Angel. We welcome comments. Please email us at vaultveritas@gmail.com. Join our Discord channel using the link in the episode description. Or if you'd like, visit our Patreon, listed as Vault Veritas SCP Files. Again, there are resources available in the episode description. Please seek support if you feel you need it. Thanks for listening.